everybody, how's it going? Steve here, and today we're going to be doing a huge test. So you might notice that I have a single Animal Crossing Joy-Con here, and there's a good reason for that, because I'm going to be testing every single Animal Crossing Amiibo. And we're starting with the figures, but we also have all 400 Amiibo cards, thanks to the generosity of one of our fans, Farina. Thank you so much. There's a link to her Twitter down below. She's also giving away a free copy of Animal Crossing New Horizons, so please do check out her Twitter. Without further ado, we're going to get right into it, starting with none other than Mr. Tom Nook himself. So where we are is we're in Photopia. And if you scan a supported Amiibo, they'll go ahead and pop up. So there's Tom Nook. He's right there. And we're going to go ahead and just keep moving along. Next up are Timmy and Tommy. Let's go ahead and see what happens if we scan them. Would you like to call Timmy or Tommy? We're just going to choose Tommy since we know both will show up. And there we go. Next up, we have Blathers. And I'm pretty confident in him showing up as well, because he runs the museum. Here we have Celeste. So there's her Amiibo, and let's go ahead and scan it. There she is. All right, we're doing well so far. Here is Kix. Let's scan him. And he shows right up. Here we have Mabel. And there she is. And these were probably the hardest Amiibos for me to get. Here is Isabelle in her summer outfit, which, believe you me, took a very long time for me to find. And if we scan Isabelle, she shows up, albeit in her winter outfit. Here's Isabelle from Amiibo Festival. Let's scan her in. And it tells us she's already there. So there's no difference between which Isabelle Amiibo you use, but I do have one more. This one is a special case. This is Isabelle's Smash Brothers Amiibo, so I want to try this and see if this will work, because it technically is not an Animal Crossing Amiibo. Let's go ahead and see, and Isabelle's already here, so yeah, you can use any existing Isabelle Amiibo to get her into Photopia. Now here is Lottie. Let's go ahead and see. Lottie can't be invited, so this is our first Amiibo that can't be invited to Photopia. What this means is she also can't be invited to your camp. Now, I want to be clear, because some of these are NPCs that are available elsewhere in the game. So if a character has another role within Animal Crossing, they also can't be invited to camp. But this is kind of a good baseline to see if they're supported at all. So Lottie, unfortunately, did not make the cut. Next up, we have Kent. Let's go ahead and take a look at him and see if he'll get in. And I know it says Digby on the screen. His Japanese name is Kent, and I kind of slipped up there. So Digby, not Kent, unless you're in Japan, in which case it's Kent. Can't be invited either. Looks like he's not in. All right, next up is Cyrus. Let's go ahead and see. I've gotten a lot of questions about him, so let's go ahead and see if he can get in. Cyrus can't be invited. Sorry, Cyrus fans, but it looks like he's not yet in the game. Next up, we have Reese, another one that I've gotten a lot of questions about. Let's go ahead and scan her. Reese can't be invited, so looks like we have another case. So we're starting to get to the ones that don't, unfortunately, have representation. Okay, guys, are you ready? I think this one's going to sting. This is Cap'n, and I got a bad feeling about this one. Let's go ahead and scan him in. Cap'n can't be invited to Photopia. Oh no, he's the most island-like. It's hard to believe he's wearing a flower shirt and sunglasses, but you know, I'm holding out hope that he'll be added in an update, or maybe he's just hiding somewhere in the game and we don't know it yet. Okay, deep breath. This is Mr. Rossetti. I'm betting against this one. Let's go ahead and scan him in. Rossetti can't be invited, guys. Oh no. All right, let's keep going. Oh, this one, you guys, this one's going to hurt. It's Rover. And if you've been watching my content, you know that he's my favorite villager, and you know that I'm pretty convinced he's not in the game. Okay. How dare you, Nintendo? My personal favorite, Rover, did not make the cut. I'm gonna hope that he's in an update too. I'm gonna keep hope alive here, but I'm really sad. Bad Nintendo. Last, but but certainly not least, KK Slider. So let's go ahead and scan him in. And bam, there he is. Okay, so we're ending on a high note. You know, it's not bad. KK is in. I'm okay with this. So out of the Amiibo, we got 3, 6, 8, technically 9. So just over half of the available Amiibo. But we are going to move right into the cards after I clean up the field. Okay guys, we are back and this is the long part. We're doing all 400 Amiibo cards. Now when I say all 400, I mean all 400 released in the US. I do not have the Japanese exclusive cards, unfortunately. You know, again, this is all thanks to the generosity of a fan. Thank you so much, Farina. We're gonna go ahead and get started right on these though. And number 1 is Isabel, so I'm fairly confident here. And there she is. Card number 2 is another sure thing. We're looking at Tom Nook. And there he goes. Card number 3 is one that Nintendo confirmed not to work. This is DJ KK. I'm going to go ahead and just put it up there, but yeah, see, DJ KK can't be invited. The reason why I was so sure is that Nintendo showed in the Animal Crossing Direct that that was not a supported Amiibo. That was their example. Here we have Sable of the Able sisters. Let's go ahead and scan her. And there we go. So, you know, one that didn't have an existing Amiibo. Here is Cap'n. So does Cap'n's card work? I have my doubts. There we go. Cap'n can't be invited. So that matches with his actual Amiibo. Mr. Rossetti. Again, I think this is one that we're going to have a bad time with. Yep, Mr. Rossetti cannot be invited. Next up, Joan. So if you don't know, Joan has been replaced by Daisy May in New Horizons, so this will be interesting. It looks like Joan can't be invited either. So this ought to be interesting. We have an Amiibo card for Timmy, where we only have an Amiibo that is both Timmy and Tommy. So let's see if this identifies itself as Timmy or if it asks me which one to summon. There we go, we get Timmy, so that's awesome. So this is a little bit different. Here we go with Digby, definitely not Kent. I apologize for the error earlier. And Digby can't be invited, so even with his card, we don't get access to him. Here we have Pascal. Let's go ahead and summon Pascal. Pascal can't be invited. Uh-oh, we're doing a lot worse with the cards than we did with the plastic Amiibo. Here we have Harriet. Let's go ahead and see if Harriet can be summoned. Harriet is also unavailable, guys. Big moment here, we have Red. Now, this will kind of help us answer the question, does Red come up and does he sell paintings? I don't know. Let's see if he is at least summonable for photos. Red can't be invited. I wonder what that means, whether he'll be around selling art. Now, here is an interesting case. Sahara, I do know, is in the game. So I'm not sure if her card will bring her up. And sure enough, she shows up. So far I've seen one NPC I know is in the game and one I'm not sure of, and we've had varying results. Here is Luna. Let's go ahead and... Luna can't be invited. Uh-oh, guys. Tortimer, the old mayor. I think we kind of usurped his position in New Leaf, so let's see if he wants to come back for some revenge. Tortimer can't be invited. Maybe he's retired. Here we have Lyle. Let's go ahead and check him out. Lyle can't be invited. Here we are with Lottie again. Lottie can't be invited. Here we've got Bob. Look at how chill he is. Let's go ahead and see. Oh, yep, Bob's in. All right, here we have Fauna. And Fauna is in. Here we have Kurt, a very angry looking bear. Kurt is in, wearing an MVP shirt. Here is Portia. And there she is, she's in. Next up, Leonardo, no relation to the Ninja Turtle. And there he is. Next up we have Sherry. And there she is. After that, Kyle, the lone wolf. Kyle is available too. Here we have Al. Let's go ahead and scan him. Looks like Al is in as well. We're doing pretty well here. Here we have Renee. And Renee is in too. All right, we're hitting our stride here. Next up we have Lopez, and I can spoil this one because he showed up on my island, so I know he can be summoned because he lives on Game Explain. Here is Jambette. Jambette is available. Man, we are just going full steam ahead here. Here's Rasher. All right, he's summoned. Here is Tiffany, kind of a more goth-looking rabbit, and she is in, although her outfit appears different. Here is Sheldon, card number 31, and he is in as well. Here we've got Blue Bear. Now, I remember really liking Blue Bear, so hopefully he's in. And he is! Oh, that's cool. I might have to add him to my village, or to my island. Okay, here is Bill. And he is in. Next up, we have Kiki. And there she is. All right, here is Deli. And he is in as well. Here is Allie, the alligator. And she's in too. So far, we're finding a lot of these are working. I'm very impressed. Here is Kabuki the cat. I really like him. There we go. Kabuki is in. Next up, Patty. Patty is in. Jitters. Jitters is also in. Here is Gigi. Let's go ahead and check her out. She is in as well. Here is Quilson. Quilson also in. Here is Marcy. And Marcy is in. We gotta do some cleanup on the field here. Next up, we have Puck. Puck is in. There is Shari. Shari is also in. We are finding that most of these cards are in so far. Octavian, also in. I'm beginning to wonder who didn't make the cut. Winnie. Winnie is a winner. Knox, number 47. Knox is also in. Sterling, number 48, who seems very similar to Knox. They're both wearing armor. Also in. Bonbon, number 49. Also in. Peachy the cat, number 50. Also in. Opal. I remember Opal. And Opal's here. Poppy. Let's go ahead and check Poppy out. Poppy is in. Limburg. Limburg is in. Dina. Dina is in. Next up, Snake. Snake the rabbit who looks like a ninja. Also in. Bengal, clearly a tiger. Also in. Phil the turkey. Looks like Phil the turkey made the cut. Monique the cat. And Monique is in. Nate the bear. And Nate is in. Samson. Samson is in. Next up is Tutu. Tutu made the cut. And T-Bone, last one before we need to reorganize. T-Bone is also in. You guys, we are getting a lot of luck here. or maybe not luck, you know, we're seeing that Nintendo put in a lot of work. So there's a really good amount of representation here. Here we have Mint. Mint is in. Next up is Pudge. Could describe myself that way. Pudge is in. Next up is Midge. Midge is in. I really like Midge's look. I'm not familiar with Midge. Here is Gruff, number 66. And Gruff is in. I like Gruff too. Here is Flurry. Flurry is in. Next up we have Clyde. Probably a play on Clydesdale. And Clyde is in. Next up is Bella. Bella is also in. We're doing good here. We're doing really, really good. Biff. Not Back to the Future either. Just a hippo named Biff. Biff is in and he looks angry. Maybe he is Back to the Future. Yuka the koala. And Yuka is in. Next up, Lionel the Lion. Rather distinguished looking. I hope he's in. And he is. Here we have Flo, not to be confused with the lady from the Progressive commercials. Here we have Cobb. Kind of looks a little bit like a zombie pig. And Cobb is in. Here is Amelia, number 75. Amelia is in. Probably named for Amelia Earhart, given that she's a bird. Here is Jeremiah. Jeremiah was a bullfrog. And Jeremiah is in. Here is Cherry. Cherry is in. Here is Roscoe. Roscoe is in. Here is Truffles. And Truffles is in. Here is Eugene, and I remember Eugene. I always thought he was like what would happen if a koala bear was the Fonz. And Eugene is in. There is Eunice. Or Eunice. And Eunice is in. Here is Goose, a chicken named Goose. And the goose is loose. Next up is Annalisa. And Annalisa is in. Next up, Benjamin. Benjamin is also in. Next up, Panchetti. I wonder if she's named for Pancetta, which is kind of dark. There she is. She is in. Next up is Chief. How's it going, Chief? Chief is in. Next up, Bunny. Bunny is in. Next up we have Clay. Clay is in. Next up, Diana, number 89. Diana is in. We have Axel coming up next. And Axel is in. We're batting 1,000 here, folks. Next up, Muffy. And Muffy is in. Here we have here we have Henry, number 92. Henry is in. Here we have Bertha. Bertha is in. Here we have Cyrano, like Cyrano de Bergerac, which explains the long anteater nose. And Cyrano's in. Here we have Peanut, which is an adorable name. And then Peanut is in. Next up, Cole. Cole is in the game. Here we have Willow. Willow is in. Here we have Rolled. I think this might be the first penguin we've come across, and he is in and in a different outfit. Here is Molly. Molly is in. Here we have Walker, a rather simple pup. And Walker's in. KK. Now we know this one's going to work. Let's go ahead and just hit it. Yep, number 101, KK works. Here is Reese. I have a bad feeling. And yeah, first one in a while that can't be invited. We are 25% of the way through with these cards, folks. There are still almost 300 more. Here's Kix. I have a good feeling about him since his amiibo worked. There he is. Let me do some cleanup here and get these guys off the field. Okay, and we are back in business. Here we have LaBelle, the third Able sister, and she is there. So I guess her name is Laybelle. Here is Copper. Now, I haven't seen him in the game, so I'm not sure if he'll work or not. Unfortunately, Copper is not in. He cannot be invited to Photopia, which probably spells bad things for his partner, Booker. Let's go ahead and see. Yep, Copper and Booker are not on Photopia, so I guess our island is a no police zone. Here's Katie the cat. Katie cannot be invited. That's a shame. She's really cute. No Katie. Here is Tommy. I am confident he will work. Tommy is with us. Here is Porter. Now, he's kind of been replaced by Porter's kind of been replaced by Orville and Wilbur, who, if you don't know, are named after the Wright brothers, the two brothers that didn't discover, but invented the airplane. So Porter is not here, unfortunately, and that kind of falls in line with my expectations. Here is Layla, and she looks kind of like Cap'n. She is related to Cap'n, so let's see if she's in. Layla did not make the cut. I guess both she and Cap'n are out. Okay, guys, here's one you all have asked me a lot about. This is Dr. Shrunk. I don't know if he's in, but I do know you learn reactions from other people in this game, so I'm not hopeful. Let's try it out. And sure enough, Shrunk cannot be invited to Photopia. Dawn Rossetti, this was asked in our 50 Q&A, so if you haven't checked that video out, go ahead and give it a shot, but here's an answer. Dawn cannot be invited. Looks like he is not in the game. Isabel, geez, I wonder. Surprise, she's there. Blanca, the cat with no face. Now, I don't think she's going to be in the game because this really centered around the DS's touchscreen, and you would draw a pattern on her face and she would just wear it, whatever the heck you drew. So, yep, Blanca can't be invited, unfortunately. Next up, we have Nat. Let's go ahead and see. No Nat either. Next up, we have Chip. Now, it looks like Chip is not invited. Here we have Jack, another special character. Looks like Jack can't be invited, though I wouldn't be surprised if he can be later in the year. Next, we have Poncho. Poncho is in. We have Felicity. Felicity is in. Here we have Ozzy. Ozzy is in. Next up is Tia. Tia is in. Here we have Lucha. Lucha is in. Here is Fuchsia. Fuchsia made it in. Here is Harry. Harry made the cut. Next we have Gwen. Gwen is in. Here we have Coach. Coach made it. Here is Kit. Kit made it, and I've got to clear the room here. Next up is Tom. Tom made it in. And here we are continuing on with number 129, Tipper. Tipper is in. And here we go with number 130. This is Prince. Prince is also in. Here we are with number 131, Pate, or I'm just going to say Pate. Pate is in. Here we go, following up with number 132, Vladimir. Looks like Vladimir is in. Here we go with number 133, Savannah the Zebra. Savannah is in. Here we are with number 134, Kid. Looks like Kid made the cut. Here we are, number 135, Phoebe. And I knew Phoebe was in because she's actually in my village. Here we are with Egbert, 136. Egbert is in. Here we have Cookie, number 137. Cookie makes it in. Here we have Sly, number 138. Sly is in, and I gotta clear the room. Next up, Blair, number 139. Blair is in. Following that, we have Avery, named after my daughter, number 140. Avery is in. That's, I should probably have her in my village. Him, her. Here's Nana the Monkey at 141. Avery and Nana both making it in. Here is Peck. Peck makes it in. I have to say the overwhelming majority of these are in. Here's Olivia, number 143. Olivia's in. Next up we have Caesar. I think I've seen him. And maybe I have because he's in. Next up we have Carmen, number 145. Named after another one of my kids. And she is in. This is Rodney, number 146. Rodney is in. Here we have Scoot. I remember Scoot from previous games, and he's in. Here is Whitney. Let's take a look. Whitney is in, and I'm going to go ahead and clear the room of all these excess guests. It'd be really nice if there was like a remove all. Okay, there we go. Next up, we have Brocolo. His name is Steven in other countries, which is weird. Like, how do you get from Brocolo to Steven? Here is Coco, who looks like a mix between a rabbit and a gyroid. And Coco is in. Here we have Groucho the bear. Groucho makes the cut. Here we have Wendy. Oh, looks like Wendy's in. Here is Alfonso, who by default wears a Mario shirt. Alfonso is in. Nice taste in clothing, Alfonso. Here is Rhonda the Rhino. Rhonda is in. Butch. There's Butch. Gabby. Gabby is in. Moose the mouse. He has got an interesting facial expression and hairstyle, if I do say so myself. Here is Timbra. Timbra is in, and let me clear off these 10 guests. And let's keep it going. We have Zell. Zell is in. Next up, we have Pecco. Pecco is in, or maybe Pico. I'm not sure how you say that one. Teddy. That's a lot easier to pronounce, and Teddy's in. Here is Matilda with a TH, and she is in. Here's Ed. Ed is in, albeit in a different outfit than what was on his card. Bianca, who looks to be like a tiger or a leopard. Bianca is in. Here is Filbert. Seems to be a squirrel. Filbert is in. Here is Kitty the cat. That's on the nose. Kitty makes it in. Here is Bo. Bo is in. Here we have Nan the goat. Nan is in, and I gotta clear some space off. Next up, I've got Bud. Bud is in. After that, Ruby. Ruby the rabbit is here. Benedict. Benedict is here. Agnes, number 172. Agnes is here. Coming up quick on the halfway point here. Julian. Julian the apparent unicorn is here. Here's Bettina. Bettina is here. Here we have Jay. Jay made it in. Next up is Sprinkle. Sprinkle is here. Here we have Flip the monkey. Flip is here. And here we have Hugh. Hugh is here, and I gotta make some room. Next up we have Hopper. Hopper is in. We have Pecan. Pecan is in. Drake. Drake is in. Alice. Alice is in. Camo Frog. Camo Frog is in. Anicotti. Anicotti is in. Chops. Chops is in. Charlize. Charlize is in. Vic. Vic is in. Anka. Anka is in. And I gotta make some room. Here we have Drift. Drift is in. Next up is Vesta. Vesta is in. Marcel. Marcel is in. Pango. Pango is in. Keaton. Keaton is in. Gladys. Gladys is in. Hamfrey. Apparently a hamster. Hamfrey is in. Freya. Freya is in. Here we have Kid Cat. Kid Cat is in. And here we have Agent S. Agent S also in. Let's clear some space. Next up we have Big Top. Big Top is in, followed by Rocket. Rocket is in, and we're at 200 cards, halfway there. Next up, one I know isn't going to work and is going to break my heart, number 201, Rover. He's really cool looking too. I know. I didn't expect it to work, but sad day. Here we have Blathers, who I think will work, number 202. Blathers is here. Now's a good time to remind you that this doesn't mean you can invite them to live in your village. Some of these just mean that they're in the game in general, like Tom Nook. Tom Nook is here. Of course he would be. He still runs resident services. Here is Pelly the Pelican. Pelly cannot be invited. So there's another one that doesn't work. We were on a good run for a while. I suspect that Phyllis also will not work. Yep, since we have Wilbur and Orville in charge of our mail now, I suspect that none of the folks related to mail, like Pete, will work. There we go, just confirming that. Here we have Mabel. I suspect she'll work. We all already know she's in the game. And there she is. Here we have Leaf. Let's go ahead and see. Leaf cannot be invited. Here is Wendell. I suspect he won't work as well. Yep, as expected, Wendell does not work. Here we have another Cyrus. We don't expect him to work either. Here we have Grams. I'm not expecting her to be available either, since Captain's Island is not in New Horizons. Here is Timmy. Fully expect him to work. Timmy, of course, does. Here is Digby. I don't expect him to work. Digby does not. Here is Dawn Rossetti. Again, one that I don't expect to work. Dawn cannot be invited. Here we have Isabel in a kimono. I don't expect her kimono to come, but I do expect her to show up. Looks like I was right on that one. Here is Franklin the Turkey. Don't expect him to show up either. Although, caveat, I do expect him to possibly show up later. Holidays are downloadable events in Animal Crossing, so who knows? Jingle, another one I don't expect to work right now, but one I expect might work later in the year. Here is Lily. Here is Anchovy. Looks like these guys are working. We're back on a good streak. Here is Tabby. All right, let me make some room here. Next up, we have Cody. Cody works. Here we have Miranda. Looks like Miranda worked, no problem. Here we have Dell. Paula. All right, Paula worked. Ken. Ken is here. Mitzi. Rodeo. Bubbles. And Bubbles works. Costo. Costo works. Here's Velma. Velma works. Let's clear out some room. Here is Elvis. Canberra, who I know works because they were in my village. Here is Colton. Colton works. Here is Marina. Merino works. Here is Spork. Spork works. Here we have Freckles. Freckles works. Here is Bam. Bam works. Here is Frigga. Frigga works. Ricky. Ricky works. Here is Deirdre. Deirdre. And Deirdre works. Let's go ahead and make some room. Here we have Hans. Hans works. Here we have Chevry. Chevry works. Here is Drago. Drago works. Next up we have Tangy, like a cat with an orange head. Tangy works and is disturbing. Here is Mac. Mac works. Next up is Alois. She works. Here is Wart Jr., not related to Mario Bros. 2's boss. And he works. Here is Hazel. Hazel works. Here we have Beardo. Beardo works. Ava. Ava works. Time to make some room. Here we have Chester. Chester works. Here we have Mary. Mary works. This is Genji. Genji is in. Here is Greta. Greta is in. Here is Wolfgang. Wolfgang is in. Here is Diva. Diva is in. Here's Klaus. Klaus is in. Here we have Daisy. Daisy is in. Here is Stinky, and I know Stinky is in because he's in my daughter's copy of the game. Stinky is in. Here is Tammy the monkey. Tammy makes the cut, and we gotta make some room. All right, and here we have Tucker. Tucker is in. Blanche. Blanche is in. Gaston. Gaston is in. Marshall. Marshall is in. Gala. Gala is in. Joey. Joey is in. Pippi. Pippi is in. Buck. Buck is in. Bree. Bree is in. Rooney. Rooney is in. I've got to make some room. Kurlos. Kurlos is in. Sky. Sky is in. Mo. Mo is in. Flora. Flora is in. Hamlet. Hamlet is in. Astrid. Astrid is in. Monty. Monty is in. Dora. Dora is in. Biscuit. Biscuit is in. Victoria. Victoria is in. Lyman. Lyman is in. Violet. Violet is in. Frank. Frank is in. Chatter. Chatter is in. Merengue, or meringue if you're not speaking Spanish. Meringue is in. Cube. Cube is in. Claudia. Claudia is in. Curly. Curly is in. Boomer. Boomer is in. Caroline. Caroline is in. I gotta make some room. Sparrow. Sparrow is in. Barbara. Barbara is in. Rolf. Rolf is in. Maple. Maple is in. Antonio. Antonio is in. Soleil. Soleil is in. Apollo. Apollo is in. Derwin. Derwin is in. Francine. Francine is in. Chrissy. Chrissy is in. Here we have another Isabel card. I suspect it'll behave the same way as the others. Yep, summons Isabel in the outfit she currently wears. Here is Brewster. I'm not expecting him to work, unfortunately. Sure enough, Brewster cannot be invited. Here we have Katrina. Not sure if she'll work or not. I don't think so, though. Sure enough, Katrina can't be invited. Here we have Phineas, another one that I'm expecting won't work. Phineas does not work. Here we have Celeste. I'm very confident because her Amiibo works. And there she is. Here we have Tommy Nook, another one that I'm convinced will work. Sure enough, Tommy does. Here we have Gracie. I don't think she'll work. Sure enough, unfortunately, Gracie cannot be invited. Here we have another relative of Cap'n in Leilani. I don't think she'll work either. Unfortunately, Leilani cannot be invited. Here we have Mr. Rossetti. We've faced this tragedy a couple of times, and sure enough, it repeats itself. Mr. Rossetti cannot be invited on that card either. Here we have Timmy Nook. Confident this will work. Sure enough. Here we have Lottie, which I know will not work. Yep, sure enough, unfortunately. Here we have Shrunk, and considering that we learn reactions from other villagers now, I'm confident this won't work either. Sorry about that, Shrunk. Next up, Pave. Pave cannot be invited. Here we have Gulliver, and we see him a bunch in the game, so I'm sure he's... Yep, there he is. Here we have Red. Unfortunately, Red can't be invited. Looks like we're not getting paintings. Here is Zipper. Zipper is in. Next we have Goldie. Goldie is in. Here is Stitches, and I know this one works because it's my daughter's favorite. Stitches is in. Pinky. Pinky is in. Mott. Mott is in, and let me clean up the room here. Here we have Mallory. Mallory is in. Rocco. Rocco is in. Cat. Cat is in. Graham. Graham is in. Peaches. Peaches is in. Dizzy. Dizzy is in. Dizzy is really large, but I guess elephants can be. Penelope. Penelope is in. Boone. Boone the orangutan is in. Brofina. Brofina is in. Croquet. Croquet is in. We got to clean up the room. Pashmina. Pashmina is in. Shep. Shep is in. Lolly. Lolly is in. Eric. Eric is in. Dottie. Dottie is in. Pierce. And I've seen Pierce in the game, so sure enough, Pierce is in. Queenie. Queenie is in. Fang. I think I've seen Fang in someone's village too. Fang is in. Frida. Frida is in. Here we have Tex. Tex is in. I've got to clear the room. Here is Melba. Melba is in. Here we have Bones. Bones is in. Here we have Annabelle. Annabelle is in. Here's Rudy. Rudy is in. Naomi. Naomi is in. Pee-wee. Pee-wee the gorilla is in. Tammy. Tammy is in. Olaf. Olaf is in. Lucy, who I've seen on my island. Lucy is in, of course. Elmer. Elmer is in, and I've got to clear the room. Puddles. Puddles is in. Rory. Rory is in. Elise. Elise is in. Walt. Walt is in. Mira. Mira is in. Pietro. Pietro is in. Aurora. Aurora is in. Poppy. Poppy is in. Apple, who I know is in because she was my first new villager. Apple is in. Rod, who I also know is in because he was my second new villager. Rod is in. Let me clear the room. Pearl. Pearl is in. Static. Static is in. Celia. Celia is in. Zucker. Zucker is in. Peggy. Peggy is in. Ribot. Ribot is in. Annalise. Annalise is in. Chow. Chow is in. Sylvia. Sylvia is in. Jacques. Jacques is in. Time to clear the room. Sally. Sally is in. Doc. Doc is in. Pom Pom. Pom Pom is in. Tank. Tank is in. Becky. Becky is in. Rizzo. Rizzo is in. Sydney. Sydney is in. Barreled. Barreled is in. Nibbles. Nibbles is in. Kevin. Kevin is in. Gloria. Gloria is in. Lobo. Lobo is in. Hippo. Hippo is in. Margie. Margie is in. Lucky. Lucky makes the cut. Rosie. Rosie made it. Rowan. Rowan slips in. Mayel. Mayel makes it. Bruce. Bruce is in. O'Hare. O'Hare is in, and I've got to clean up the room. Gale. Cranston. Cranston is in. Frobert. Frobert Frobert is in. Grizzly. Grizzly is in. Callie. Callie. Wow. Callie. Callie is in. Simon. Simon is in. Iggly. Iggly is in. Angus. Angus is in. Twiggy. Twiggy is in. Robin. Robin is in. And we have just finished 400 cards. We still have a few more to go. I'm going to go ahead and clear the room. Okay, so here we are. We're starting off with the 3 Amiibo Festival cards, beginning with Goldie. Looks like Goldie is in. Next up, we have Rosie, and I think we've tried different forms of all of these villagers through various cards. So none of these should be a surprise. For instance, I know we tried Stitches. Stitches is in. And now we're moving on to the Welcome Amiibo cards. There's 50 of these. Starting off, we have Vivian. Vivian appears to be in. Next up is Hopkins. Hopkins is in. Next we have June. June is in. Here we have Piper. Piper is in. Next up we have Paolo. Paolo is in. Here we have Hornsby. Hornsby is in. Here is Stella. Stella is in. We're going to clear the room. Next up is Tybalt. Tybalt is in. Here we have Huck. Huck is in. Here is Sylvana. Sylvana is in. Here we have Boris. Boris is in. Here is Wade. Wade is in. Here is Carrie. Carrie is in. Looks like I missed a spot on that card. Here is Ketchup. Ketchup is in. Here is Rex. Rex is in. Next we have Stu. Stu is in. Here we have Ursula. Ursula is in. Gotta clean up this room. Next up we have Jacob. Jacob is in. Here we have Maddie. Maddie is in. Here is Billy. Billy is in. Here is Boyd. Boyd makes the cut. Here we have Biddy. Biddy made it through. Here is Maggie. Maggie is in. Here is Murphy. Murphy is here. Next up is Plucky. Plucky is here. Sandy. Sandy is here. Next we have Claude. Claude is here. Let's go ahead and clear the area. Next we have Rattle. Rattle is here. Followed by Julia. Julia is in. Louie. Louie is here. Here we have B. B is here. Here is Admiral, who I know is in the game because he's in my island. There he is. Next up, we have Ellie. Ellie is here, which is probably good for me. That's one of my other daughters' names. Here is Boots. Boots makes it in. Here is Weber. Weber made it in. Next up we have Candy the mouse. Candy makes the cut. Here we have Leopold. Leopold made it in. Here we have Spike. Spike made it in. Here is Cashmere. Cashmere is in. Next up we have Tad. Tad is in. Here is Norma. Norma is in. Here we have Gonzo. Gonzo is in. Next up is Sprocket. Sprocket is in. Here we have Snooty. Snooty is in. Next up is Olive. Olive is in. Here we have Dobie. Dobie is in. Here we have Buzz. Buzz is in. Let me clear the area. Here we have Cleo. Cleo is in. Next we have Ike. Ike made it in. And now for the final card. Tasha. Let's go ahead and scan Tasha. And Tasha is in. So that is it, everyone. 453 Amiibo cards scanned, 16 Amiibos scanned, and we've done it. That's every single one checked out. The vast majority of them are actually compatible, which I'm deeply surprised by. I thought we would have much less numbers. It seems like mostly the ones that didn't work were just special villagers, special people like Rover, like Cap'n, like Rossetti. Arguably the most disappointing, but still, the vast majority of regular villagers seem to work. I'm shocked. So, you know, make of that what you will, but they're mostly here. Nintendo did a great job with adding all of these villagers, hundreds, literally hundreds of unique villagers to this game. Again, huge shout out, huge thank you to Farina for providing us with 453 cards to test. It took me a long time to make this video. I deeply appreciate your help, Farina, and thank you so much for helping us make this happen. As always, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to Game Explained for much more on Animal Crossing New Horizons and all other things gaming as well. Until next time, bye.